Kyle Busch wins at California.
Yeah, get it. Yes, second top winner by far.
The driver of the 18. He'll salute the crowd, bow to them.
Kyle Busch was not only a symbol of speed, but also the embodiment of fascinating controversy throughout 2 glorious decades in NASCAR. Merely 6 days after his convincing victory at Dover, the sports world was left in shock by the news of his sudden passing.
One of the sport's busiest weekends still stunned by the death of Kyle Busch.
I guess would be the one thing, and very surprised, I'm sure the whole industry is right now. Kyle and I have been tough competitors, right?
Silent warning signs had appeared long ago, but no one recognized them until everything became too late. Right now, let us unravel the story of the final 11 days in the life of a legend, where glory and tragedy intertwined in a heartbreakingly cruel manner. On May 10th, 2026 at Watkins Glen International, Kyle Busch drove his number 8 car at terrifying speeds.
Reddick, Gibbs, Dillon and Busch 4 and 5. Busch are the first Ford with Cindric right behind him.
This is one of the most demanding circuits in the NASCAR schedule, where high-speed corners exert immense G-force on a driver's spine and respiratory system. During the intense laps, something unusual occurred. Over the live radio broadcast, Kyle Busch made a request that stunned the technical crew. He spoke to team doctor Bill Heisel about needing medical support immediately after the race finished. This request was broadcast publicly, a brief command from inside the cockpit: "Give me a shot when the race is finished." This was a detail most television viewers simply viewed as part of typical fatigue. Throughout 22 seasons of professional racing, Kyle Busch was always known by the nickname "the man who never quits." To him, pain on the track was not a reason to stop, but a variable to be managed. The demand for immediate medical intervention without waiting for the weekend to end was a sign entirely different from this driver's usual work style. After crossing the finish line in 8th place, he headed straight to the garage to receive care from Dr. Bill Heisel. According to those present at the scene, while showing signs of fatigue, Kyle Busch maintained the demeanor of a driver intensely focused on strategy. He quickly pushed the matter aside, viewing it as one of the obstacles to overcome to continue the journey for the following stages. No one asked questions, and no one emphasized that radio request. Everything returned to the appearance of a normal race day, where cars continued to roar and all eyes turned to the next technical parameters. According to The Athletic, the event at Watkins Glen was not merely a matter of physical health, but the first milestone in a series of unpredictable consequences. The pressures of altitude and speed at the New York track began to amplify hidden problems within the body this driver was enduring. Those with a long-term experience in the racing industry affirm that a top-tier driver like Kyle Busch would never offer a request for medical support on the radio if that feeling was not beyond his control. The calculated silence of the support crew afterwards made the situation even more incomprehensible than ever. While he finished the race with a good ranking, the way Kyle Busch left the car showed a subtle change in his health status. It was not a collapse, but a silent resistance of the body against the pressures he was still trying to control with willpower. Many sports medicine experts later analyzed the situation, identifying this as the first clue to a silent, gradual health decline. While this event passed in public indifference, looking back, it resembled an alarm bell that even Kyle Busch could not predict the terrifying weight of. Only days later, in a fateful interview, the traces of that alarm bell began to appear clearly through each of his breaths, marking the beginning of a haunting silence before the media. Silence during the interview. 5 days after leaving Watkins Glen, Kyle Busch entered a scheduled interview with The Athletic. Amidst questions about race strategy and standings, a strange sound rang out, breaking the usual professionalism. It was a prolonged, dry, and haunting cough. Kyle appeared unfazed and did not use it as a complaint. He brushed it off the way a man speaks about a bruise after a collision, something obviously destined to exist. He casually admitted to the reporter, "You can kind of still hear it." That statement did not carry the meaning of a plea for help, but a quiet acceptance of something present within his body. Throughout the conversation, the atmosphere focused entirely on the future of the season. the reporter did not dig deep into that cough, and Kyle did not allow himself to delve into medical details. To him, revealing weakness was not in the dictionary of a champion. He remained Kyle Busch, the man who always turned every obstacle into evidence of his mettle. Each answer expressed determination, focus on upcoming laps at Charlotte, and unfinished goals. That cough was pushed into the category of things to ignore the same way he once drove with a broken leg in 2015. To subtle observers, the presence of that sound in the recording was a detail impossible to ignore. The cough was no longer a random symptom after intense exertion on the track. It had begun to become a part of his daily biological rhythm, persistent and increasingly distinct. Those reading the interview later might have caught it, but they quickly scrolled past to look for information on performance predictions. No one asked about what was happening beneath the surface of an athlete always appearing invincible before the public. Kyle Busch dedicated his entire career to building a tough image, a man who never surrendered to any difficulty. The silence regarding his true health status in this interview was a calculated choice, or perhaps the habit of a person too accustomed to bearing all pressures alone. He did not want to interrupt the team's focus or cause unnecessary stir in the media. He was still operating according to a machine's programming, believing he could control everything solely by the willpower and perseverance of someone who had conquered every peak. When the interview concluded, Kyle continued his journey with undiminished confidence. He did not know that the cough was silently building an insurmountable barrier, something even his iron willpower could hardly prevent. What happened in that interview room now becomes a heart-wrenching testament to misplaced confidence. The next turning point of his life was gradually appearing at Dover racetrack, where the final glory would arrive before the final curtain of life began to fall. Final victory at Dover. On May 17, 2026 at Dover Motor Speedway, Kyle Busch entered the Buckeye 200 race in the Truck Series. This was a rare occasion in the season. He drove the numbered 7 car for Spire Motorsports instead of his familiar number 8. From the start, Kyle showed absolute focus. He started from pole position and dominated the grueling Monster Mile track. Throughout the 200 laps, Kyle Busch led 147, overcoming pressures from young drivers eager to prove themselves. This was his 69th victory in Truck Series history, setting an absolute record for wins in this tournament, a milestone no other driver in NASCAR history had touched. When stepping out of the car at victory lane, despite his face showing fatigue from enduring aching chest pains since the Watkins Glen incident, Kyle Busch still performed all celebration rituals. A reporter from Fox Sports asked him about the motivation that kept him maintaining peak form at age 41 after decades of fighting. Kyle Busch paused for a moment, eyes fixed on the trophy in his hand, then said, "You never know when the last one is." This sentence was recorded live on television, becoming the most haunting moment when looking back on his final life process. This victory was not just about statistics. Kyle Busch participating and winning at Dover, while his health showed signs of serious decline, demonstrated his extreme professionalism. Race health measurement data from the NASCAR Data Center later showed that Kyle Busch's heart rate in the final laps at Dover was higher than normal for an experienced driver. He fully controlled the car, executing precise steering at speeds over 160 miles per hour through high-banked concrete corners of Dover. This was the final evidence of the innate machine control ability he had honed over 22 seasons. Right after leaving Dover racetrack, Kyle Busch chose not to rest to recover. Instead, he immediately traveled to Charlotte to participate in technical meetings for the All-Star race. His refusal of in-depth medical checkups at Dover to arrive in Charlotte on time showed he prioritized the race schedule over his body's warnings. Colleagues present at the garage area in Charlotte that day noted that Kyle showed signs of shortness of breath when moving between technical areas, but he still refused assistance from the Richard Childress Racing medical staff. He continued working with lead engineers to adjust operating parameters for the number 8 car, preparing for the longer-term goal of the Coca-Cola 600. The victory at Dover was a brilliant and tragic ellipsis in the career of the Las Vegas driver. It was not only his 69th title, but also the last time fans saw him standing at the highest position of the winner's podium. His Truck Series record will remain, although that trophy has now become a sad historical artifact. After leaving Dover, his route headed straight to Charlotte, where final tactical calculations inadvertently pushed him into the final hours of life without anyone knowing. All preparations for the next race were still proceeding urgently, completely separated from the reality that the number 8 driver's health had reached a critical point. The end of this glorious chapter at Dover was the beginning of irreversible developments in Charlotte, where the final message of love was waiting to be sent. Final words on social media. On May 19, 2026, at an indoor go-kart facility nestled in Durham, North Carolina, the atmosphere was thick with the distinct nostalgic scent of burnt rubber and the vibrant echoing sound of high-pitched engine hums. This was not the corporate high-stakes arena of the Cup Series where Kyle Busch usually commanded attention under the intense glare of the spotlight. Instead, it was an afternoon defined by quiet intimacy. Kyle was not there as a global racing icon or a polarizing figure under the heavy weight of professional performance metrics. He was there simply as a devoted father, fully immersed in the joy of celebrating his son, Brexton's 11th birthday. Those who happened to be at the facility that afternoon later recounted the scene with a sense of lingering tenderness. They described a man who had completely cast aside the competitive armor he wore during professional races. Kyle gave his son his undivided attention, teaching him the nuances of the small track. His face devoid of the professional focus or the subtle shadows of fatigue that had been clinging to him throughout the previous week. In that singular moment, the brutal, relentless competition of the NASCAR world was utterly replaced by the simple, profound joy of family. It was a scene where a legendary driver was reduced to his most authentic self, a father eager to pass his lifelong passion down to the next generation. As evening fell, Kyle Busch posted a family photo on Instagram, accompanied by lines that left the whole world speechless when looked back upon later. Happy birthday, Brexton. Mom and I are so proud of you. You are the best boy both on the track and in life. You amaze us every day, keep doing that, and there is no limit to what you can accomplish. Those words at that time were just a normal birthday wish from a father full of love. But through the lens of events occurring less than 48 hours later, they became a haunting spiritual testament to the impermanence of life. Throughout his competitive years, Kyle Busch was often perceived by the public as a prickly character ready to create conflict to gain an advantage. However, in this final message, the world saw another perspective, a deep and affectionate Kyle Busch. His writing about pride and no limits for his son was the final message he sent to the world. That was not a discussion about trophies, intense matches, or fiery rivalries on the track, but an affirmation of love for family. The existence of this post in cyberspace created a cruel contrast between plans for a bright future and the sudden stop of a human life. At the moment of hitting the post button, Kyle did not know he was performing his final public act. He was still planning for the Coca-Cola 600 race in Charlotte on the weekend, still calculating strategies to optimize his number 8 car. No one, including his family, could realize that this driver's life had reached its final hours in the strange calmness of a Tuesday. Everything happened naturally, as if the laws of life had never been threatened, making this ending harder to accept than anything else. That status remains on his personal page, becoming the center of sharing and pain from the fan community everywhere. Those who once disliked Kyle's competitive style now stopped to read carefully every word he wrote. That was not just a birthday wish, but a monologue about the fatherhood he left. As a final message to the son continuing his career. The door to normal life was gradually closing after the smiles at the go-kart track, leading him to his final fateful hours at the General Motors Technical Center. Fateful call in Concord. On May 20th, 2026, Kyle Busch began work at the General Motors Technical Center in Concord, North Carolina. This is where he performed driving simulation sessions to prepare for the Coca-Cola 600. This simulation system requires rigorous physical fitness, replicating extreme G-force pressures a driver faces at 200 miles per hour. Around 5:30 p.m., the 41-year-old's body reached its limit. Instead of continuing, he felt severe shortness of breath heat and noticed signs of serious internal hemorrhaging. In the fragile moments between consciousness and exhaustion, he managed to reach the restroom area before his body completely stopped cooperating. The 911 call later recorded haunting sounds from the scene. The caller tried to control panic to describe Kyle Busch's critical state to the dispatchers. "I have an individual having trouble breathing. Very hot, feels like he's going to pass out and is coughing up blood." These symptoms were the final stop of the persistent cough he had endured since the Watkins Glen race more than a week before. The strong, calculated silence he maintained for the past 11 days could not hide the sudden collapse of his internal biological system. He was taken to the hospital in Charlotte in an unresponsive state, completely ending the illustrious career of the driver who won 2 Cup Series championships. Information about his passing was officially announced on May 21, 2026 through a joint statement from the family NASCAR and the Richard Childress racing team. This news left the entire sports world in shock and sorrowful silence. Plans for the Coca-Cola 600 race, the cars being prepared, all became meaningless before the cruel truth. At the hospital, the family had to face immense pain witnessing the father and husband who had written lines of love for his son just 24 hours earlier now gone forever. This event was a powerful blow to the minds of the fan community who only yesterday were debating his technique on the track. In the following days, while theories about acute pulmonary pathology spread strongly on social media, official sources remained cautious about confirming specific causes. Respect for the family during this period was the top priority as they had to face immense loss surrounded by public opinion. What is recorded is a life lived fully in every moment with passion and the intensity of speed sports. The call from the General Motors Technical Center was not just a final medical signal, but marked the end of an era where Kyle Busch was a name always at the center of attention. The void he left at the racetrack and in the hearts of fans is too large, no statement or memorial can fill it. The story of Kyle Busch's final days is not only a warning about human fragility, but also an epic about the iron willpower of a driver who never knew how to back down. When the number 8 car paused on the track of life, his legacy will continue to be mentioned through each achievement and record he established. Although the journey ended tragically, Kyle Busch will forever be remembered as a legend who lived and burned himself out with speed, leaving behind brilliant legacies and infinite sorrow for those left behind. The sports world has lost an outstanding talent, but the memory of the 2-time Cup Series champion will forever be an enduring legacy. The journey from Las Vegas to glorious winners' podiums is proof of a man who never accepted backing down before any barrier. If you ever followed every lap of Kyle Busch, share your most memorable moments of him in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and share this video to spread the story of a legend who lived every second fully with passion.